Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by somebody trying to get in while I'm doing my intro, which is, of course, Arwin. We're also joined by 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Neil, Adam, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Morning, all.
Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Good afternoon. Hey, good afternoon.
How are you?
Morning.
Very enthusiastic.
Yeah, we're gonna full panel. Cool.
Yeah, full panel, enthusiastic bunch. Excellent stuff. Couldn't be more happier. Any evidence of physical,
just don't have
geometric,
R.
sphere edge interruptions? Go on, whoever that is.
We don't need no stinking R.
No, you said we have a full panel. We're ready to go, and I go, yeah, we just don't have R.
We'll start with that then. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius? I was discussing this earlier.
No,
Oklahoma.
Oh my
Not
god.
present.
One at a time. Let's just all take a breath. I know we're live. I know it's exciting.
No R, but we do have a full panel.
You can
Anybody
always
sniff?
have it in the math.
10th
Yes, yeah.
man stolen R.
It only exists in the maths R, and that's correct. Anybody else got a sniff of R? Anybody at all?
It's unaccounted for. Didn't turn up today.
Maybe David Murphy knows what R is. He knows everything else.
What's it with you and Dave Murphy?
You-
We'll come back to that later. So
Not it.
a chap got in touch with me, as is frequently the case, and said, "Did you want to debate from a big New Zealand show, etc., etc.?" And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So the guy gets back in touch with me and says, "I've lined up Conspiracy Cats. He's very keen." And I got back in touch with him with a video link to one of Conspiracy Cats' videos, where right at the beginning of the video, he's got a comment of mine up saying, "Any evidence of R?" And then he goes on later in the video to detail from me the request months ago, I might add, maybe even years ago, for evidence that a transit of the moon in what we call the new moon phase is actually evident and capable of being shown. Now, in the edit from Conspiracy Cats, it's being juxtaposed with eclipses, precisely as Brian's recently been doing. It just brought a smile to my face. It was the first video I came across when I typed in my own name, did a search, and immediately came up with all the anti-flat earth people like cats. That's how I found his video, by the way, typing in my name and finding him. That's what happens when you search for somebody who's on the flat earth side. You will find your opponent's videos, nevertheless. So I took that link, posted it to him, and was like, I don't really see the point in discussing this with this person. I've already covered what I need to cover with him. He hasn't got evidence of R. Therefore, every single claim he makes fails. Now, as much as it might seem interesting, to me it's very dull for the conversation to go as follows. Do you have evidence of R, cats? And then there's only two answers. No, the truth, or yes, and then he can rehash an old claim that we've already debunked. There's nothing new that we have come across in terms of this debunk of our refutation of R. So there's nothing to do with people like cats anymore, as far as I'm concerned, unless they can provide evidence of R, which is precisely what I said to this dude. I'm like, unless you want a really short show, me asking for R, and then maybe a lie or a rehash of an old argument that's already been debunked, or no, I haven't got R, therefore all claims for the globe fail. So that's where we're at in terms of debating old anti-flat earthers that have already had all of their claims put to bed when we debunked R with the Black Swan. So there we go. Watch this space. If there's new R evidence coming our way from cats, I'll let you know. I might appear on some New Zealand podcast that's apparently very popular, debating cats with his R evidence. If not, which I doubt highly, then probably not. It might be somebody else. We'll see if somebody fresh with some new globe evidence will live in hope. Any more on R? Not film noir, Paula. R. New mic. I think you'd hear this clearly. The R value. Earth radius. Any more on this subject before we move on?
According to Neil, I stole it.
You stole R?
That's what he said.
Who stole what now? This will have to gain some clarity.
Neil accused me of stealing R, but there was no R to steal.
In the beginning of the show, he just wouldn't let you get the housekeeping question out. He hijacked it.
That was
So how
Earth
could I? Yeah, but my reply is, how can I steal something that doesn't exist?
It only exists in the maths.
Okay, I stole math.
Discord? Anybody come across anybody claiming they can prove the R value? Is it the case that when you are on your travels, you don't find people actually arguing for it? It's just automatically assumed. Go on, George.
Satellites is what they invoke lately. What it should be observed from the ground. Now they claim they can measure from the air, from the second law of thermodynamics violation.
And what they're measuring?
It's just nonsensical.
So be more specific, George. What about satellites? And you said they're measuring something. What are they measuring?
They're measuring nothing. They cannot give us measurements. They just invoke satellites. They don't have an explanation, a reason, nothing. They don't give us nothing.
Okay, I don't need the rebuttal. I just need what you understand to be their claim if you know it. So they say satellites. Is that the end of their baseless assertion? Because if you just say satellites, I can just say grass or unicorns or whatever I like.
That's pretty much correct. That's pretty much what happens because the following up question, they don't know what to answer. So they just invoke satellites and that's it. And they have nothing else to add.
Okay, but from that, I've got to then assume what they're going to utilize satellites with. I mean, is it the presuppositional orbital path of the satellite that they're utilizing? Is it claimed photographic evidence from a second law of thermodynamics violation of a horizon claimed to be Earth curve edge obstruction? I'll have to guess in terms of what they'll use the quote-unquote satellites for in terms of a globe proof. Because just saying satellites and presupposing that they're falling around a sphere Earth in presuppositional orbit, that's not really anything other than a presuppositional orbit begging the question of a sphere Earth.
Yeah, that's correct. They invoke GPS. That's their invocation. But Brian broke down a geographic position. A geographic position on the ground. They point to the sky.
My car told me, I was sat at the lights today, and on the dashboard it said connected to 7 satellites. I thought, you're lying, Git car. Yeah, but that's GPS. It's not a satellite, is it? And to mix up those two systems, to conflate the two, to suggest that space is possible is very weak.
Did it really say it was connected to 7 satellites? Mine says, turn left, fool.
Yeah, turn left. 7 satellites say turn left.
That was Mr. T.
First of all, I had an idea about that GPS, that they should have voices like Tony Montana or even Mr. T. If you make a wrong turn, you can yell that by Tony Montana instead of that stupid voice they give you.
You can, on a TomTom. You can have it as Yoda. Turn left, you will.
No way.
Don't make a wrong move, Buckaroo.
Yeah, of course. Anyway,
Turn left.
let's not promote TomTom. This is not a sponsored show. However, if you're listening, TomTom, wink, wink. We talk about satellites. We'll be debunking the technology. But I'm sure that if you actually dug into what TomTom claimed, they wouldn't actually give you any false narratives. They'd say, yeah, most of it's done by ground-based communications triangulation with these towers. They wouldn't hide that. Or maybe they would, I don't know. maybe TomTom's
Hey,
evil.
Nathan, maybe you could rephrase the question. It might wake up some people.
I'll
Any
just ask-
evidence of earthquake?
I just introduced Brian. You there, Brian?
Hey, Nathan.
Right. There's
I was just.
I'll just
Go on,
summarise
Brian.
the question and then I'll let you go through. So there's an assertion that we've got global positioning system by way of presuppositional orbital satellites around a sphere Earth. Now, the name itself, I mean, that to me, Brian, obviously as a complete devout globe believer, is enough to prove that we're on a global system because the system is global, right? Global positioning. So, I mean, I think case closed, globe proven, global positioning system. What would you say to that, Brian?
I would say that the original the more correct name for that would be a geodetic positioning system, and that the GPS system uses 3D Cartesian coordinates, and it references tangent planes only. So it's always referencing tangent planes. So you're going from one tangent plane to the next tangent plane to the next tangent plane. What it does is it takes the zeniths to the center of each tangent plane, and it mathematically pre-assumes that they're going to the center of an oblate spheroid with an average radius of 3959 miles. And then after you've gone, what you do is what you get on your Garmin or your TomTom or whatever, or your phone, whatever, because people think people get GPS signals to the phone, they don't. But it's the same thing they do because they're getting basically the same thing. You get your latitude and your longitude and your height above ellipsoid. And height above ellipsoid is begging the question of a globe Earth. But none of that happens until after they've referenced everything completely flat. That's GPS. They're referencing everything flat.
So locally flat then.
Well, let's break down some of those terms, Arwin. So I heard zenith, I heard Cartesian, I heard tangent plane. I had a lot of things that I don't really understand. So let's start with zenith. What are you talking about? What's a zenith?
Zenith is your the position you are in, direct position above your head. It's like an imaginary line from above your head that goes straight down to, in their belief, they bring it to the center of an oblate spheroid. But all your zenith is directly above your head. That's what your zenith is. A vertical line straight up from your head, straight up into the sky.
So a zenith is me imagining a plumb bob that comes directly above me and through me, down through the ground. So it's basically just a straight line that drops through me from above me. That's a zenith. Now, okay, I've got that. That's great. You also then said that zenith is assumed to be pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. So we've got a plumb bob that's above us, and we're going to assume that plumb bob is, depending on where you are geographically, actually pointing at an angle. If you've got a North Pole centric vision of the world on a sphere, that's actually pointing at an angle towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, did you say? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, well, it's not really pointing at an angle. All plumb bobs are always parallel. But if you pre-assume that the plumb bob, the line of the plumb bob is going to the center of an oblate spheroid Earth with an average radius of 3,959 miles, then you will have, mathematically, diverging zeniths or diverging plumb bobs.
Perfect. So I also heard you mention Cartesian coordinates, so presumably they're the ones that work with this obviously non-parallel plumb lines when describing zeniths at different positions. So therefore Cartesian does that, right?
No, Cartesian works
Hold on,
with
stop.
parallel.
Hold on. Do you mean no? You've just explained that that the globe believers who are talking about global positioning systems assume a zenith. I've got that. It's a plumb bob going through my head to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Got you. So therefore we've got no longer parallel plumb lines. But you're saying that the mapping system doesn't do that. I'm very confused, Brian. There's a bit of a disconnect here. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, the coordinate system don't do that. What a Cartesian coordinate system is a box, basically, and it uses verticals, which would be zeniths, and horizontals. So it doesn't use, and a box has 24 right angles, 24 perpendiculars. So you don't, and basically when you're going from what they call a tangent plane to another tangent plane and whatever, the GPS is always only referencing tangent planes. So it's using and GPS is three-dimensional. So it's referencing a three-dimensional box. You're going from one three-dimensional box to another three-dimensional box to another three-dimensional box all the time, and that's how it's referenced. And all the zeniths, where you can also call plums, will be parallel to each other.
Okay, so
But they map-
correct me if I'm wrong
Go
then.
on.
So this GPS positioning system is using Cartesian coordinates that essentially line up a load of blocks that are all using XYZ axes to give you position in elevation versus a flat plane. Therefore, your first description of a presupposition of a zenith going to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth is immediately negated by the actual plotting of your position on a flat plane. Okay, I think I'm there, so that's where the disconnect lies. These two things don't actually work together. Then you mentioned something called tangent planes. Now, tangent, I understand that. So what's a tangent plane? The plane bit you've already explained. The bottom line of the boxes that all link up in coordinates that are using Cartesian are the plane bit. I got that. Where's the tangent bit coming in? I don't understand that bit.
What that is an imaginary line that touches a circle at one point, but the tangent plane circle touches the circle at the center. So basically, a flat plane that touches a circle or a line that touches a circle in the center of the line. And in 2D and 3D space, the line would be a flat horizontal plane, and the circle would be a globe shape. So when you are traveling across a tangent plane, the pre-assumption is that tangent plane isn't flat, but it's actually curved. But they can't use any kind of coordinate systems that will reference a curve, because in reality, everything is flat. So you're always going from one tangent plane to the next tangent plane, to the next tangent plane, to the next tangent plane, etc., etc. But which means that if you think of a disco ball, the way it has all these little flat mirrors on it. So
No. While you're describing a disco ball, there's no, at any point when you describe the Cartesian coordinate systems linking up in boxes, there's no angles to these boxes like on a disco ball, is there? In the GPS.
No, that kind of, no.
Okay,
all,
fine.
So,
Okay, hold on. So before we move on to disco balls, right, I'm sure we will come to that as well. Let me just summarise this crap sandwich. So you've got a presupposition that a zenith moves to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Then you move forward to use XYZ coordinates that are known as Cartesian and map out blocks with a description of the flat bottom for each of the coordinates systems, but describe them in name only as a, quote, tangent plane. Now, the plane bit is the bit that's actually being used by the GPS system for the navigation, and the tangent bit is just the other half of the bread. It's the other side of the crap sandwich. It's the assumption on the other side, which is to say, I'm going to assume a sphere after the fact, after assuming a zenith goes to the presupposed spherical Earth, then using a system that doesn't reference anything to do with a curved surface on the bottom, it's actually just XYZ. And then after I've done that, I will then beg the question that the tangent plane bit makes the flat surface I've just actually navigated actually on a sphere when I haven't actually done any measurements that are spherical in any way, shape or form. So it's all flat, surrounded by a assumption of a zenith that's towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and an assumption on the other side that what is actually a flat plane has a tangent to it because it's on a sphere. But no measurements are done in that regard. Is that correct so far?
Yes, that's pretty much correct, yes.
So GPS is actually flat then?
Yeah, because it has to reference reality, and reality is distances in horizontal and elevations in verticals. Reality is the baseline is a flat plane with elevations above and below that flat plane.
Surely, when you've got these systems that things like Google Earth have been based on, in terms of their mapping of the world that's beneath our feet, that is actually claimed to be spherical, though, and that was my understanding from my upbringing and everyone else here's upbringing. So therefore, if what you're saying is true, when they're building cityscapes block by block by block, they would necessitate an assumption that they're curving away whilst actually building on them flat. But that would mean that if you drew out elevation profiles in things like Google Earth, there'd be no drop. And there must be, right? There is actually going to be an 8 inches per mile squared drop in every direction if you actually showed the measurements of the terrain, would there not? Even though it's mapped in Cartesian with tangent planes, obviously, although locally they're mapping it out as a flat tangent plane, you've got your disco ball. Do you want to launch back into where you left off and I cut you off, Brian? Sorry about this.
Well, just to give a little bit, just before we leave the Google Earth thing, Google Earth also use what they call tile coordinates, which are also X, Y, Z. So Google Earth are basically using the same system as GPS and aerospace and everything, militaries. For instance, you also have ordnate survey maps, which are always in Cartesian, but they're normally 2D if they're in paper, obviously. So, like with Google Earth, what you actually get is you always get referenced reality, which will always be it's a horizontal plane with elevations. But what they'll do is in the distance, they'll over exaggerate the angular size change of objects. So they're not so objects in the distance in Google Earth aren't even supposed to be going below a geometric horizon. What they do is they just over exaggerate the angular size change. So it gives the impression that something has starting to go over a geometric horizon.
Sure.
Because they have to reference reality and there is no geometric horizon.
Sure,
They don't do that.
when you're just what you've just detailed is the visual depiction in 3D rendered worlds of computer game simulation that is offered alongside the actual measurements in Google Earth. Now, I had this discussion yesterday, coincidentally, with Sleeping Warrior, and he was showing and describing what Google Earth shows visually. And I was like, I don't give a crap what they show visually. It's just a 3D rendering. And the mathematics for what they show as being measured are the things that are actually used professionally on a daily basis. People pay for that piece of software to use it to build stuff. Now, they're not using the visual representation of Google Earth. They're using the measurements, right? Now, from what I understand, they're also using XYZ, and therefore no drop in Google Earth. The bit that's going to be utilised for actual day-to-day experience and living and building and all those other good things that we experience in our daily lives, those are all referenced flat as well in Google Earth, regardless of the visual representation, which, no offence to you or Sleeping Warrior, I couldn't give a crap about.
Oh, no, I understand. And just as you mentioned, I suppose I better go on to the topic of the disco ball. The disco ball is like an analogy of the world that they're trying to reference, which is a globe-shaped world with a load of flat pieces on it. Whereas in reality, that is not possible, as all Cartesian coordinate systems, whether it's 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, must meet up at every corner, edge, and side. They have to meet, otherwise it doesn't work because it's a conjoined system.
Sure, but you're only talking about the bread either side of the actual Cartesian XYZ. In other words, the assumption of a zenith to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and I've forgotten the second assumption, the after-the-fact assumption you'll have to remind me of. What is it they do after the fact? Oh, tangent plane. They assume that the tangent bit means it's a sphere. Well, you're referencing that if the bits that were assumed to be the case, as opposed to the measurements that are utilised, were the case, then you end up with tangent planes stuck on a sphere, which would give you a disco ball effect. But that isn't anything to do with the actual measurements, like you have described. When you actually plot out what you're going to be moving along, you're only moving along XYZ coordinates. You've got elevation changes and a flat plane beneath you. Therefore, no drop, no Earth curve, and certainly no disco ball flat plane tangents that you actually build on and measure, with a vast severe angle at the edge of each of the tangent planes to make it spherical overall, neither of which apply and are only applicable to the assumptions and presuppositions that are sandwiched around the actual measurements in Cartesian. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, they start off with a zenith. This is what's known as the ECEF, which is called the Earth-centered, Earth-fixed system, And that came from the ITRF system, which is a geodetic surveying system, which is the ITRF stands for International Terrestrial Reference Reference Frame. And basically what they do is if you take a basketball with a load of pins and a load of square pieces of paper, and what you do is they put a pin to the center of the square piece of paper and then stick that pin into the basketball to make it appear like it's going to the center of the basketball. And then they do the next square piece of paper with pin and the next square piece of paper with pin. But it always starts with the pre-assumption that that pin is going to the center of the basketball. But if you want to line up all those pieces of paper, then you have to take all those pins out and make them parallel.
Right, flat in other words. So just so we're summarising this for anybody who's new here. The Earth is obviously, observably, navigatably and measurably flat. That is how we negotiate the world we experience. Now, the fact that there is a heliocentric belief that we're on a sphere with the world falling away at 8 inches per mile squared is merely an assumption placed either side of the flat plane we actually dwell atop. It is merely a religious belief. There are no spherical measurements beyond assumptions in maths that cannot be measured because they rely on physicality to a sphere we are not standing on. The Earth is not spherical. The Earth is measured, negotiated, obviously and observably flat.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask a question?
Feel free.
Isn't it Greenwich the center, the zero reference point in the whole thing? Isn't that what it makes the England being the center of Earth in somehow in the rhetoric?
That's just the prime meridian.
Meaning,
that's just the prime meridian. That's what you're talking about, right?
no, I think that on the coordinate system, it's where it starts. It's where zero is. 0 latitude, 0 longitude. So from there, it expands on a flat plane, all in squares with right angles. So not conforming to a sphere, obviously.
Well, that is the zero meridian is like 0 longitude, and it's a longitude then is plus to the east and negative to the west, I think.
Completely arbitrary.
So
arbitrary. Martin Leaker and myself went to the Mapper Monday and had a look at their map from 500 odd years ago, and the prime meridian went through Jerusalem. Arbitrary. These are lines that have been drawn that don't exist. Same with the time, the date line, the international date line. You can move either side of it. You can decide what day you're going to be on. For certain countries, obviously not others. Hey, Chocolate.
Used to be the pyramids as well before they moved it to.
Good morning, guys.
That's correct. Yeah, it's been Giza as well. Yeah. But as I say, this is arbitrary. You know, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, yes, you can work within this convention to navigate, right? Once you've got it all plotted out. It doesn't change the fact that none of the plotting out bit works on a sphere or is done on a sphere. And they say, well, let's just assume we're working on a sphere. Then we'll measure it all out and plot it all flat. And then afterwards, we'll say that the flat bit's actually a spherical flat bit. That's the process. It's kind of pathetic when you lay it out like we have. I mean, it is complicated stuff, and I thank Brian for going through it in the way he has with me irritatingly and interrupting at various key moments. But this is the world we live in. We live on a flat plane. That's how it is. You don't have to like it. Now, you can dig through the rhetoric and listen to how they presuppose sphericity when they're actually measuring flat, and how they justify why they're measuring flat for simplistic sake, or why they're flying across it flat for simplistic sake only. And how they'll declare after the fact, when doing those functions, how it's actually a sphere anyway. Because you'll see it all the time, in any of the descriptions. Oh yeah, we measure all of our refractive values on a flat plane. Doesn't mean the Earth's actually flat though. Things like that, people will just go, oh yeah, okay. It's like, hello, you haven't even got to read between the lines. They're telling you it's flat.
They even say it's easier that way. I wonder why.
It's easier to navigate or fly over a non-rotating flat Earth. Why? Oh, because that's kind of how it is. So let's ask the first question. See if 10th interrupts it this time. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve. Except the people that claim the horizon's Earth curve.
You think that'll come to a head, Chocolate? A few people have mentioned this in other shows that I watch, and in my comment section for that matter, where they've said, will it come to a head between anti-flat earthers? So, for example, Blue Marble Science saying Earth and atmosphere travel as one, hot air balloons aren't expected to drift, we're not on a roundabout, all of the things that would fly in the face of a claim we have Coriolis drift, the actual globe claim. Well, do you think it'll come to a head where somebody like Blue Marble Science ends up in an argument with someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's saying, yeah, the ball goes through the air and the Earth turns beneath it to cause the drift? And Blue Marble comes back to him going, you idiot, the atmosphere moves with the Earth. You know, will that happen? Because at the moment, it's us pointing it out, and they call us idiots and say, why would you, Mr. Flat Earther, expect to see drift? And it's like, I wouldn't. That's not my claim. I'm debunking that claim. But you're now flying in the face of your own claim because I've debunked it. So at some stage, you've got to have the situation can't, just by statistical chance, it'll be the case that at some point, someone like Tyson, or with that actual rhetoric that Earth turns beneath to cause drift, and someone like Blue Marble Science who says, no, Earth and atmosphere stand in violation of the first law of thermodynamics and spin together when it's unbonded gas. And those two things come together with an argument between globe believer and anti-flat earther. That was Chocolate, if you still...
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. They need to start debating each other. What's going on? Well, leave the flat earthers alone. Y'all have enough things to work out between yourselves, guys, anti-flat earthers and globers. Is the Earth spinning? Is the atmosphere lockstep with the Earth or not? Because both these claims come from you guys. So you might want to work it out.
On the
It's been like
curvature
6
point.
years now. And I think it's important for us to actually make a point about this a lot, because it's kind of ridiculous when you go to like the priests, like Smoking the Grass, and he tells you one thing, and then the clowns that come in here or make videos about us say another thing. But then later on they'll say, oh, but you guys, you don't have a coherent model. You don't agree with each other. You guys who have this shit on paper can't agree with each other. So work it out, man. 2021.
Another excited talk that I love it.
I've got specifically on curvature method, I'm doing a new What is the World, and on that, with regards to the priests of Bill Nye, Smoking the Grass, Mick West, Michelle Thaler, all of them I've got quotes for where explicitly they are defining the horizon as the physical leading edge of the sphere. That's they're quite categorical religious statements from them that the high priests are making, and there has got to come a point where the anti-flat earthers address this, because that is not their rhetoric. They are also denying the ball earth rhetoric, the anti-flat earthers.
So what you're saying is there's got to be a situation come to a head where someone like Tim Osman challenges the actual globe rhetoric with nobody's claiming the horizon's Earth curve.
Well, they are.
See,
Bill
in
Nye.
that particular statement, that guy is so crazy that he needs to debate himself, because he's actually presenting evidence of, oh, this is a horizon and it's the curve of the Earth. Meanwhile, with his words saying that it's not. Nobody said that. Who says that? I've never heard that. What? Are you all right, man? Do you require medication? Because you're presenting that right now and then saying, I never heard that. That makes you guys sound crazy. Okay? Thanks.
Unless we're just not understanding them.
They need to report back for retraining at the ball academy, don't they? If that's
Yes. Back to the head of the class. The back of the class.
Yeah, I
You
think they
guys are
got to
nuts,
debate
man.
each other. They have to debate each other.
Yeah. Set up a nice
Anti-flat earth is
anti-flat earth,
Right.
anti-flat earth versus globe debate. Right? Go to modern day debates or wherever the hell y'all go and work it out. And then come
But
see
they're-
us. This is why
but
it's
they're
so
not, you know
quiet
why?
here. My bad, dude. I got I'm hyped.
They're not, because the actors in the mainstream have never addressed a single flat earther argument ever. Because our argument is, hey, there's this claim and there's no evidence for this claim. Would you care to elaborate on that? That's all we're asking. Doesn't matter which question we're asking. Ultimately, that's the sense of it. Where's the evidence? Like, so all they've done up until now is basically say that we're irrelevant, and our questions are irrelevant, and then they straw man us to death. So if the other guys were to come out and debate them, they wouldn't answer them with anything other than a repetition of the shit in the textbook, because that's what they've been doing this whole time.
I would agree in this sense, right? Until they get their shit together and work it out, we are irrelevant. Because like I said, they need to debate each other, right? Just this one example, is the atmosphere rotating lockstep with the earth, or do we have a drift? Okay? Because both those claims, again, come from you guys. We don't have any of those claims, right? That's you. So, yeah, get on it, guys.
We're not kidding
mean,
about this either. I mean,
what I would offer, Chalk, is obviously they do need to work this out, these guys. And look, we'd quite happily sit there as an arbitrator, sit there as in the middle, chair a debate for them in a very neutral fashion. If
I'll get popcorn.
Yeah,
I'll enjoy the shit out of it.
Get themselves to a proper consensus bit of science, and then we can work with that from them, can't we?
See, there was a chance. We had a chance for that, right? When Fight the Tight Shirt had to sit down with Georgie Mooser, right? He had a shot because how many times he told us gravity is a force, gravity is a force, gravity is a force. But then you sitting down with the man himself, the reason for the citation, right? You're sitting down with him. He tells you it's not a force, literally. And what do? Oh, yeah, it's not a force, yeah. Are you serious? What happened to all the times you told all the flat earthers before? It's not a force, or it is a force. It isn't a force. So now you're saying which one of your priests? That's what it is, right? You can't disrespect your priests, right? You got to respect that, right? So when Georgie Musa tells you it's not a force, literally not a force, so you have to accept that. And then later on tell us, yeah, he said it's not a force, but what had happened was, nah, get the hell out of here. There's a wrap for this nonsense now. I'm done with it. Sorry, I had a lot of sugar in my coffee today.
No, it's good. I like the passion. I mean, it's one thing to distinguish between a globe believer, that would be somebody who asserts Earth turns beneath to cause drift, called Coriolis effect, and an anti-flat earther who says Earth travels with unbonded gas moving along in violation of the first law. You idiot, why would you, the flat earther, expect to see drift? Now, we can distinguish those two things now. Like, these two things aren't mutually exclusive, so what are you going to do about that? Can't have both. It's a contradiction in terms.
Exactly. I mean, they can keep going with their contradiction. That's fine. You could just, you know, when you start making videos about the flat earthers, you might want to start making about the globers, right? What are the videos about Neil deGrasse Tyson and how wrong he is, right? George Wooster and how wrong he is. Why don't you guys attack your priests?
Well, there's that dude from what's that damn, what's his name? I forget, but oh, what is it? Skylar Sky something, and he went against Professor Dave. You guys know what I'm talking
I'm
about?
not sure now.
You'll have to fill us
Sky
in.
something. Sky Scholar. Okay, I'll look it up myself. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Oh, I know what you mean, Eli. The Sky Scholar, the PhD dude. That,
Yeah.
He was the guy that was talking about gravity and was it plasma of the sun? And stuff? He gave him a proper schooling, didn't he? As Dave's high school degree, not even a proper degree, certainly not a professorship. He gave him a proper schooling, showing him where his misunderstandings were.
And again, you should have read your textbooks.
They don't like the textbooks apparently now. only the priest is sticking to the textbooks. These guys got the new science, the new shit. Right?
Well, this is my point from the beginning. It's what we were taught in school. And I think if we begin, well, we are with the housekeeping questions and just having a flat earth debate, but still over 90% of the world do not know. They think that what they're being taught in school is the same as 2 + 2 = 4.
It is just math.
No, but I'm saying 2 + 2 = 4. You know that, so they think it's the same thing when they say, "Okay, go to your science book," and you open up your science book, and they start breaking down the solar system and everything. They think that that's proven fact.
It's in the same book. Right? You got the chapter 1 is scientific method, right? Experiment, hands-on. You know, you actually have things you're going to manipulate, cause and effect, right? And then what? Chapter 4? Oh, look, what's going on Saturn? What's going on in Neptune? How we discovered this crap, right? And it's in the same book. And what's on the front of the book? A giant magical water ball spinning around in a vacuum. And on top of that, it says science, right? Crap, all over the place. Where are the ballers? Are you guys in here?
I've been wondering that for the last.
Where are y'all?
So this is the third day, right? So I was saying, Nathan, that the last 2 days have been such great shows that I could recommend it to my grandmother if she were alive, right? Like, it's been very informative, very good, and this seems like it's a third day. And I was wondering, with all that we've discussed, I mean, it's the usual answer, you know, mum's the word. But I was wondering, why aren't they coming to address anything? They're in the chat. We know they're there. Why aren't they saying, well, you know, you're wrong about this, or this is what you got wrong. Look at this citation here. This proves that you had a misunderstanding about this in particular. Why don't they ever do that?
Hold on, Eli. Grandmom's the word, not mom's the word.
They will. I mean, you've got to remember these people are under pressure, unlike us. So, other than someone like Neil, who wants to convert other people and is deeply emotionally involved in whether or not people convert to his way of thinking, other than those people, you don't have anybody with a great deal of concern about the nature of their reality. There's a certain amount of intrigue. I wonder what it might be. But there's no concern because you're not about to have your paradigm broken. So when we concisely and in a very laid back, casual, relaxed, whatever word you want to use, way, detail the death of their religion, they can only tolerate that for so long. So this pattern is a recurring pattern. You know, every month, at least once, maybe twice a month, there'll be a 2 or sometimes 3, sometimes even 4-day stint where there'll be absolutely no fundamentalist religious interjection. But that causes a lot of sleepless nights because the comment section below just isn't going to satisfy that that urge, you know, to topple the regime of flat Earth, right? The anti-flat earther in them comes out, and eventually we see those anti-flat earthers rearing their heads, or you know, eventually people say, oh, let's talk about something that's loosely related to the subject matter, and we end up talking about the Matrix or something, and there's a normie who'll hear that and go, well, I can just click the link and join, right? I can just tell them how wrong they are. Do they never have heard of gravity on show 1460? You know, I'll just tell them about gravity because they've obviously never heard of it. You know, that'll happen eventually. But as you correctly point out, having no fundie is challenging. It just means we get to concisely summarise all of the arguments in a very casual way that's very digestible because there's no yelling or fundie muting.
But where are they?
What, the people you need to convert? I don't care about them.
Hold on. I don't need to convert anybody. I'm just saying they were taught wrong. They don't know that they were taught wrong. They think that they were taught right, that this is law, the law of gravity, the law of this, the law of that. They don't know. And it would be a difference if they did know.
That's not everybody, right? Like people know that this topic is out there, right? So the only people that you're talking about are the anti-flat earthers that either on purpose don't want to see what's going on, or they don't have anything else to do and they're bored and they have to be adversarial. I don't really know exactly what their deal is, but you're never going to reach them. So I don't even know why you care.
It's not that I want to reach anybody. I just want them to understand. I want it to be known that what we were taught in school is not true. Wouldn't you want to know that, hey, wait a second, 2 + 2 is not 4? Holy shoot, I thought they taught me in school how to do math and it was 4. And now it's 5. Come on.
Who are you saying come on to, Neil? That was all detailed.
You, Nathan, you.
I'm at peace with this, Neil. You don't need to tell me. I don't really give it any thought beyond the show.
Nathan, you open up your flat earth school right now.
Yeah, that's what I said, beyond the show.
That can save us all.
Sure, but beyond the show, if there was a fundie here now and I was arguing intensely and people were like, wow, he's really passionate about this, which I am. After the fact, once the show closes out, I literally don't give it a second thought. Half the time I don't even remember their names. Because it's not something that affects me in that negative way, where I'm concerned about the nature of reality and how it's going to affect me. I just appreciate the world around me on a more local level, on a more day-to-day level. Beyond the show, I mean.
I think you misunderstanding me.
Hold on. Go ahead, Ram.
I'd like to ask Neil if he's really secure in his... Is he
Don't
in
start,
the flat
Ram.
earth?
You triggered him straight away.
Do
Say that again,
not
Rams. We'll
start.
see if we'll see if we can get through this with Neil. Go ahead, Rams.
Neil, are you completely satisfied that the earth is flat?
No, I'm completely satisfied with reality. I'm just shocked that it's been out here so long and people are not realizing that what's being taught in the school books is not true. Didn't you think it was true when you were taught it in school?
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Do you know
what you just said?
Hold on, everyone else, don't jump on Ram's bandwagon. Rams is trying to counsel Neil. Let him
counsel me.
Yeah, but like my question, do you know that that's the case, and are you secure in that? Because if you are, why do you need the acknowledgement?
I don't know what you're talking about.
of...
I'm fine. The world is not fine.
How do you
but
know
why
that?
do you need the acknowledgement of the world?
I don't need the acknowledgement of the world. I know what I'm standing.
Why do you care?
Guys, everyone else, let's try this a third time. Just want to hear Neil and Rams, please. Right, let Neil respond. Try not to jump over him.
Why do you care so much what the world thinks?
I don't care.
If you know that that they're misguided, then why would you be so frustrated at,
No.
the fact
Not
that
misguided,
they're-
mistaught. That doesn't bother you that when you went to school and you were taught something that then you find out later on, me at 51, that, wait a second, it's not a proven fact that we're on a planet? That didn't strike
Yes,
you
it
as
was frustrating up
weird?
until the point when I became secure in my own knowledge of that what I learned.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
This when you said the world is not a planet, yeah, and this isn't a dig. You are still in shock over this, Neil. You are still in disbelief
No,
over
that's
this.
how I was when I first heard it. You're not listening. Not now. When it first came to my attention, I was in shock. Yeah, you're freaking right, I was.
Yeah, Neil is waiting for the consensus.
But
Can I ask him again now?
You're right. You're right. But to what ends? And we're trying to get it through to Neil and have been for about 3 weeks straight. That it's not actually a societal problem. And even if you got everybody to understand it, right, you would still not be at peace with it. Even if I could make that happen tomorrow, Neil. And I am determined to get this through to you. And at some point you will. It's like when you've got some woman that's leaving a man that she really loved, or he leaves her for the sake of argument, right? And they just can't look past that love that they had, the woman or the man, whoever you're counselling. And they're like, but you're just not getting it. You didn't see this, that, and the other. And you're like, one day you won't care about how that relationship was. You'll wake up one day, go through your daily process, do what you do, go to sleep, wake up the following day and realise that you spent the entire day not caring about that thing that you had with that person. Now, for you, Neil, there will come a day when you won't care that, oh my God, it really isn't exactly what I was told and taught. Yeah, that day will come eventually, Neil.
No, you're wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm fine. I'm going back to when I first heard it. Not now. That first came when I was first presented to me. Yes, it was a shock, and it took a couple of weeks. But when you can't find any evidence for anything that they were saying, and all the evidence goes to the other side, I mean, come on.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say thank you for sharing that with you. I'll go next. My name's Nathan Oakley, and I'm a flataholic. It's been 3 weeks since I last called someone a muppet.
Nathan, I got 3 slides, if you would. And
Wait.
I'm with Neil.
Thank you, Brian.
Before we move on, number one, I'd like to go back to a point that was previously made about 20 minutes ago. You said it was grandma. No, I said it was grandmother with a V, mother. But aside from that, you also keep saying. You also
I was making a pun.
Yeah, no. But you also keep saying that that everyone's not.
You're the same as me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Neil, we will never get to
listen to
the
what I'm
end
saying.
of this sentence unless you let him get to the end of this sentence.
So you're saying that no one's getting it, no one's upset. You would expect, like, the earth is flat. What?
Yeah.
There's no evidence. What? You would expect this big boom of people who are just like, what the fuck is going on? But my question to you is, how do you know that that's not happening? Like, you keep saying.
I know it's happening. I know it is.
Yeah, but you're saying it's not. And you're frustrated about it not happening, but you're now saying it is.
Okay. Well, okay, hold on, Neil. Where's it happening? Because I can tell you where it's happening, where someone has pain like yours.
Hold on a second. When I was in the beginning, in the pre-show, I was talking about how there's just certain phrases that are really pissing me off, and I keep hearing them. Like, he's the greatest on the planet, or globally, or this or that, and they keep putting it in and putting it in and putting it in. It's like, it's annoying.
It is annoying, Neil. It annoys me too when I hear that nonsense.
And you even
Meanwhile-
said it one time, Nathan. but you weren't recording, so you're lucky. Otherwise,
Yes.
you would have had them coming out of the
Well,
woodwork.
That's
So
correct.
he was right. You're not okay with it because the bottom line is when you turn on
What the
Netflix
hell
and
are
you
you
want to watch
talking
TV,
about?
when you want to sit down and watch a nice program on Netflix, CIA program, entertainment, right? You see all these globes everywhere. And now it's uncomfortable because your family knows that you don't believe in the globe. So now you can't have this easygoing moment where a globe just went by over the screen and no one said anything. Now it's these tense moments and it's annoying as hell. So you're not okay with it.
I don't know what
that's
the hell you're
okay.
talking about. I watch TV fine. I'm just saying certain phrases that they put out. I mean,
How you
constantly
gonna
to
say I'm
reaffirm
fine with it? I'm just not fine with it. That's what you keep saying.
the phrases that they say.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
So
like
that
when-
would
when-
be the part that you're not fine with, Neil. I mean, you're my boy, but that's what you're saying. You're saying I'm fine
holy
except for this
shit,
part.
I don't know how this
That's
is on me again. You people.
It's okay,
It's
Neil.
okay.
It's okay.
Look, it's okay. I
But
think
Neil,
we
I
can.
get it,
Hello,
I get it.
hello. Now I think we've got to the root cause of the problem. Now we just need to apply some therapy. So I think what we need to do is to face the bad words head on together, Neil. So we're going to have a little try. We'll try a few words and we'll see how you react.
I know.
Everybody be calm. I'm being serious. Global.
Bullshit.
We didn't
do with the
do
Dr.
too
Phil
well with that
moment.
one. Let's
Can we get
try
some-
another one. Let's try to see how you react. Atmosphere.
Sickening. Sickening.
there he goes. There he goes. Let it out, Neil. Let it out.
Give him the big R. See if you can cope with the big R, Nathan.
Radius value.
That flies over everybody's head. That don't affect me because they're too stupid to understand that.
What about sides?
What about what?
Sides.
Pride.
Tides. That's too stupid for that. Planetary. There's one. Drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, but it should be, have the same
And
effect.
wave
isn't it?
dismiss
It's
the
still the
tides
question.
anyway.
Yeah, wave. Dismiss the tides.
Good one, Ted. Good one.
Can we get to the three slides? Can we get to the three slides?
Tim
and
got
stop the
slides.
Dr. Phil moment.
This is the 10th slide moment.
10th man is that
Oh,
guy
yeah,
that says,
Nathan's enjoying it.
look, guys, you're having too much fun. It's time for a slideshow. What's your problem?
All this fun. Thanks, Tim.
Right,
Are we getting an
AAG.
intervention on our intervention? Ted?
It is, yeah.
What are you doing?
AAG, got it up. Everyone clear the
Yes,
airwaves for 10th, please.
Yes, Chocolate brought this up in my mind because when he said something earlier, it brought me back to the Association of American Geographers, where it says, words for thought, notes from the glossary of mapping sciences. You go to
these
the
are my
seconds. Those are your peoples. Fictitious geography. In science and also in mapping, we are concerned with nonfiction generally in our work. But all too often, we lose sight of the fact that much of our nonfiction is built upon abstraction and arbitrarily agreed upon convention, like p-values, for instance. With that in mind today, I will share some words from the glossary to help us remember that right there in our nonfiction research is our own fiction that we like to call abstraction and assumption. The ending of this article, after they went through certain words, says, we should embrace the fiction in our science because understanding what we can measure and what we cannot is a very important step in understanding the world around us scientifically.
With that, I am going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Massive thank you to Godzilla37 for smashing the super chat. I forgot to shout you out, my friend. I'm really sorry, but thank you for the support. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!